The Elon Musk Twitter sock is getting juicier than an overripe. It's Canada dogs. What do you want? It's getting juicier than an overripe peach. Employees are freaking out. The woke mafia jumping ship, and now it's looking more and more like they're trying to bury evidence they've been using biased algorithms to shadow ban and block conservatives. It has been a wild 48 hours since the world's richest man dropped $44 billion to buy Twitter. Free speech, suddenly the hottest topic in all the land. Many liberals have had a collective heart attack as they watch in horror. And man, oh mercy, I have to say, I love every minute of it. But something weird is also going on behind the scenes. All of a sudden, conservative accounts are seeing massive spikes in followers. And the exact opposite is happening to progressives. Huh, that's so weird. The theory is that the company is now monkeying around with the algorithms before Elon takes over and shines a light under the hood to cover their tracks. Twitter claims nothing like that is happening, you guys, but conservatives all seem to agree something's up, bro. For instance, I usually gain, I don't know, couple hundred followers a day, and now I have 10,000 new ones. Yesterday, I don't know, like 5,000 more. Thank you. That's nothing. Donald Trump Jr. has like 435 million new followers. 70% of Republican lawmakers, they're reporting the same thing. And if you look at this chart, it makes a little bit more sense. Big tech employees are overwhelmingly liberal. Look at that, they're liberal. They donate way more to Democrats. At Twitter, 99.35% of employee donations have gone to Dems for the upcoming midterms. If that doesn't tell you there's a little bit of bias, I'm not sure what will. And it appears that people are ready for Elon to take over and shake things up. Watch.
I believe him buying Twitter gives us more control as people to voice our opinion and speak our minds.
I feel like Elon's for the people, so like he's trying to do what's best for everybody else.
Elon is for the people. So is the shadow banning real? Will it stop when Elon is in charge, or at least owns the company? Let's get into it with tonight's party panel. We've got conservative strategist and Z-Lab's vice president of public relations, Chris Barron. Oh yes, hockey anyone? Indeed. We've got Democrat strategist and Priorities USA, former political director. Currently our guest, Crystal Knight, is back, and comedian and host of the Part of the Problem podcast, an international legend, the one and only Dave Smith. Yeah, here we go. So, Chris Barron, is it real? Is shadow banning real? Yeah, are there algorithms that bias Twitter against conservatives and the liberty-minded?
Absolutely. I mean, look, for months and months and months, I've been watching a decline in followers on Twitter. The last 48 hours, suddenly I'm gaining followers.
Wow.
If this was just me, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's just me. Maybe I just said something really clever. No, it's happening across the board. And they can lie through their teeth all they want and say, oh, this is just organic. We're not doing anything with the algorithm. Yeah, the truth is you hit the nail on the head. They want to undo the algorithms before Elon shows up and says, hey, by the way, they've been lying to you the whole time. They've been monkeying with the algorithm to attempt to influence elections and shut down the voices of those of us on the right side of the spectrum.
Another thing that will be shut down conceivably in short order, Crystal, is the number of bots operating on Twitter, because a very large number of the accounts are, in fact, phony baloney. So if they are ceasing with shadow banning conservatives, maybe they're also cleaning out the bots, and that explains the decline in progressive Twitter users.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the bots are a problem on Twitter. I don't have a ton of followers, and so I didn't see a bump or a decline in my followers post this this new buy news. But as it relates to the shadow banning, I don't think that that's true. I think that, you know, folks don't want to follow people that they don't want to hear from. And so if that's your way of saying that, you know, there's an algorithm that is skewed towards more liberal than conservative folks, then I would really just check what you're posting to see if that's the problem.
I don't think it is about what you're posting. I mean, my posts are pretty consistent, and you know, I saw a huge drop in followers after January 6th. I know a lot of people did. But just in the last couple days, I'm like, I didn't say anything funny. Like, why? It hasn't been really crazy newsworthy. I don't know why all of a sudden I have 10,000 new followers. But it's probably just like the broccoli florets I get at Whole Foods. It's probably organic, Dave.
Well, I've also experienced a large uptick in new followers, but my tweets as of late have been particularly dope, so I'm not going to speculate as to what that might be. That could be organic. Well, look, I'll tell you. Look, there's no question the shadow banning and all type of strange things exist. It's a fact. I'll tell you just one example. My pinned tweet, if you go to my Twitter at Comic Dave Smith, my pinned tweet is railing against the COVID passports. This is back from months ago when they first brought the COVID passports in, and I was talking about how awful they were going to be in discriminating under the law against people who don't consume a pharmaceutical product. I have had thousands of people tell me that they've liked that tweet and their like has disappeared on it. Now, this isn't one or two people telling me this. It's that there's no reason why thousands of people would be making this up. This happens all the time to non-progressive people on Twitter. And yes, what else would be the explanation for why all of a sudden all the people who don't fall into this progressive worldview are seeing huge increases right after the company was just purchased by someone promising to institute free speech? It's the only explanation that makes sense. And the truth is that you can see the evidence just in all of the progressive leaders freaking out about this. I mean, it's a blatant admission that if they can't control their opposition's ability to communicate with each other, they see that as a big threat to their power.
Yes, absolutely, and they feel a moral obligation to activate that control, and that is implicit. And their worldview is the right one, and they have to make sure that everyone goes along with it because they're the ones who decide what misinformation is. And that is spreading like fungus on a hillside. While Elon waits for his deal to go through, he's been busy tweeting, this time questioning why Twitter suspended the New York Post after its story on Hunter Biden's sketchy business dealings. He tweeted, quote, suspending the Twitter account of a major news organization for publishing a truthful story was obviously incredibly inappropriate. And now we're learning even more Biden family secrets. Can that be? What a saga. According to the Post, a 2019 email from the infamous laptop shows Papa Biden said he would pay $800,000 in legal fees for his son. On top of that, we're told that in 2010, then Vice President Biden met numerous times with Hunter's business partner at the White House. The Biden administration, they're denying it all, of course. Watch.
We've heard the president say over and over again that he has never spoken to his son about his business dealings. Has he ever spoken to his son's business partners about his son's business dealings?
Again, nothing has changed about what I said yesterday. The president does not get involved in the business dealings of his son.
Even through his son's business partners?
Nothing has changed since what I said yesterday.
Okay. I don't believe you answered that part of my question yesterday.
He's not involved in his son's business dealings.
Attorney General Merrick Garland defended the probe into Hunter and dismissed the need to appoint a special counsel. So will this investigation actually go anywhere? Chris?
Yeah, it'll go somewhere in January of next year when we have a new Congress. And look, from the very beginning of this, Joe Biden could have told a story that even rang partially truthful. Like saying, I've had conversations with my son, but only to the extent that a father has a conversation with his sons about things that are going on in his life. Instead, he told a patently, obvious lie from the get-go. I've never had any conversations whatsoever about my son's business dealing. If Trump had said that, hell, if I said that, that's absurd. What father's not having a conversation with his son about things that are going on in his life? That was a patently false statement from the moment that he made it, and our legacy media was so bought into beating Trump that they allowed him to tell that lie, and not only tell that lie, but to push it off. Oh, yeah, he never had these conversations. Of course he did. And the problem for Biden is he's talked in absolutes. He said he never had any conversations with his son about his business dealings. Yeah. We know now that that's a lie. And this Congress is not going to get to the bottom of it, but I promise you the next one will.
Well, this thing has been dragging on for quite a while, Crystal, and it's just gaining more traction.
Well, I think it's gaining more traction because we're months out. We're like 200 days out from the midterm elections. And really, in the words of Donald Trump, this is nothing more than a witch hunt. This is the conservative attempt to discredit this president, discredit the Democratic Party ahead of the midterms in order to weaken them ahead of the elections.
What about discrediting Hunter Biden? Because he's the one who has been writing all of this.
Why is Hunter a story?
Well,
why
because
is this a story
his
right
dad
now? If this
and
is
his
something,
uncle may have been enriched by dealings with communist Chinese government officials. That's a really big deal.
And are you telling me that the former
this is what I will tell you.
Wait a minute.
No.
Sure.
This is what I will tell you. This is not a Republican witch hunt when the New York Times and the Washington Post, within days of each other, just a couple weeks ago, came out and said, yes, this whole thing is real. We did a really bad job reporting on it. Our bad. You know, apparently now the New York Times and Washington Post are Republican operatives, and they're trying to smear the president. Dave, I'll let you finish the story.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I guess one of the major differences between the two witch hunts would be that Hunter Biden is clearly guilty of corruption and Donald Trump was not a Russian asset. And so they're kind of different things. But on top of that, I think there are two major stories that no one's really talking about with the Hunter Biden scandal, and they both involve Ukraine. And the fact that Ukraine is so in the news right now and this still isn't coming up is kind of amazing. Number one, the reason why Burisma went and gave Hunter Biden this sweetheart deal was because after the coup of 2014, which the Obama administration was instrumental in organizing, this company that was in bed with the previous government wanted to get in with the new government. But instead of just bribing the new government, they went right to the source, which was Vice President at the time, Joe Biden. And so they figured if they paid his kid a bunch of money, that would get them in with that. That's one. Number two, everybody seems to forget that our last president was impeached over Ukraine Gate, where he was demanding that they investigate Joe and Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, we now know that our federal government was investigating Hunter Biden at that time, and no one mentioned this. Even Trump's own Justice Department. There were no leaks. Like, this would have been very important information for Donald Trump's defense to go, yeah, it's actually not that crazy that he demands Hunter Biden be investigated. We're investigating him right now for this activity.
Well,
it really shows you something.
If only they had done that back then, this wouldn't continue to balloon out of control. But they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to admit to what degree Hunter Biden was being investigated, what the FBI and the CIA knew about all of this, and what they omitted. But the fact that there's a war going on in Ukraine, and this government is doing nothing more than trying to prolong it, to weaken and starve Russian citizens, and not using diplomacy, and the fact that Joe Biden is in the middle of it, and Hunter Biden is
pro the invasion? Are you pro the invasion?
Pro the invasion. She's saying she wants the war to end.
Dingbat. I am anti-war.
No, I'm a dingbat. Is that what you just said?
Yes, you're a dingbat. If you think that I was pro the
you should call your guest that. I don't think you should call your guest that. That's not a good use of your platform.
Then I call them dingbats.
That's not a good use of your platform. That's not a good use of your platform. And I expect more from you as a host.
Executing a TV show when you say something and accuse me of something that is patently false. If you have watched a TV show for a minute,
I'm asking you to watch your tone and what you say.
I will watch my tone never, because the show is not called Crystal pokes her head in and starts giving advice that is completely unwarranted.
I'm not on here calling I'm not on here calling you names.
Yeah, well, you know what? A dingbat is very tame for what I tend to call people who are absolute dingbats.
Just expand your vocabulary.
Well, expand your reasoning beyond being a dingbat, and I will. And also stick to true statements and not falsehoods. Okay, the panel, much more with them coming up.
This is
a new study claims public school enrollment has tanked since the pandemic. I wonder why. I'm going to break it down in my memo in moments.